I don't know, that one that Wes was using to brush on the faces of Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland is pretty detailed. A little more than three hairs, but
Yeah.
This probably isn't much different. It's the brush looks really thick, but I mean the handle looks really thick, but the brush is barely there. In fact, this is the second one because the first one came broken.
oh no.
I was able to return it, but it's like a $15 brush.
Yeah. Art supplies are funny.
Yeah. I think it lasts a long time though if you take care of them. I still have a lot of my paintbrushes from college.
I think a lot of it is just name. It's just the name. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them were just made in the same facility or whatnot.
Well, I never bought really expensive stuff, but I learned really early on how to clean them with soap and let them dry out, and they've lasted for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. That said, I don't buy brushes at Hobby Lobby anymore.
I don't buy anything.
I have issues with that store.
Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The last set of brushes that I bought there, because I didn't buy the cheap ones. I bought the Art Signature, whatever it was. And it's funny. The first brush I took out, I was like dipping in the paint, mixing it, and all of a sudden I brought it up, and I was like, the bristles dissolved into the paint. I was like, what the heck? It is terrible.
Was it regular acrylic paint?
Yeah, it was just regular acrylic paint.
Oh.
It wasn't like acid or anything like that.
Well, no, I meant like as opposed to like enamel.
No.
Some of the nylon based brushes don't do very well at all, and they actually don't hold paint that well. But some of the synthetic hair ones are actually halfway decent. Those are the ones I usually try to get. Well, I'm ready when you guys are.
Trying to get all my coughs and everything out now.
Yep.
Sip of tea. Okay, I'm good. That was my sound check, by the way. Hi.
I'm wondering if I should start with the really, really cheesy joke that just came to mind, or if I should just do it the way I usually do it.
What's the difference?
All right, I'm ready when you guys are ready.
All right.
Ready?
I just flew in, and man, my arms died. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it.
Do it.
I can't do it. I couldn't see it through. All right.
Actually, no, just go with it. That's our introduction. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, maybe so.
It's so on brand for us.
But I am tired. I mean, the truth of the matter is I am still tired, regardless of any part of my body doing a majority of the work getting here. I'm still tired. But it was worth it. Welcome, everybody. This is the Making Geeks podcast for makers, families, and geeks. And we have a fun show for you, talking about our wrap-up from last weekend at Workbench Con. The three of us hadn't even really talked much since just making sure that everybody got home okay.
Yeah.
And then I think everybody's
fried.
Yeah. I would like to say that I fell asleep for 2 days, but no, I got up next morning at 5 and got ready for work. So, how are you guys doing? How's your week been?
Busy. How's your week been?
Busy.
Busy.
Yeah. My week and weekend are going to be very busy because we just had 10 yards of mulch delivered to into our driveway today, so that's going to be fun.
They didn't roll it down the driveway. It's just at the top of the driveway.
It's just waiting in a big mound. It looks like the mound of poop in Jurassic Park 1, the Triceratops leaves. It's like that. It's like that big.
Can't you just get a blower and blow 2 feet off at a time into the backyard?
I wish.
So are you going to do all of that by hand?
Yeah, we have a couple wheelbarrows. We've done it before, and every time we do it, we're like, oh, why do we do this? And then we forget we haven't mulched our yard in a couple years, so it's really been a while. and we used to do it pretty regularly. And every time we're like, oh, it's not too bad. The last time wasn't too bad, but while you're in it, you're like, oh, this is horrible. So I don't know. This time will be our last time. I swear.
So are you just using it for your planter beds for like ground cover or what?
Yeah, like around the base of trees, like in our yard, and like it defines the outer perimeter of our like grassy area in the back. And we failed. We didn't do it for a couple years, and we actually did notice. We figured it was more aesthetic. We didn't really think about the practical purpose of it, and it really did affect our yard, like erosion and stuff. Like not just around that specific area, but areas around it where it just allowed water to like accelerate, and like we see more roots in the front yard than we used to, and like the drop off is a little more rapid in the backyard to get, because we have like several tiers that kind of our backyard's constructed from, and the second to last tier is a lot sharper of a like incline than it used to be, just because we don't have mulch there, I guess, to prevent the erosion. I mean, it makes sense. It's just we never really thought about it in that way. So yeah, we have a lot of wheel bearing to do. So but we said to ourselves that when we're finished, we're gonna have a nice meal at Gonza, which is our local Mexican restaurant that I introduced you guys to when you were here. And so that's our reward for working hard this weekend, is being able to go out to eat. So
your incentive?
Yes.
It's not a bad incentive. It was really good.
It's fantastic. Yes.
How's life back in California?
Just as hectic as when I left. Busy. I mean, the family, everybody was good. I was only gone for 3 days, I guess. But it's always such a whirlwind whenever I go to any of these events, because it seems like I always arrive late and leave early. Is kind of the way it feels, unfortunately. But well worth it with everything. Not much going on during the week, but I did get my my laser from our Ortur that I signed an agreement with. So I have to review and put out the video within 2 weeks of yesterday.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, I think ideally it'll be pretty easy because I don't have to do any kind of fancy project or anything. It's mainly getting it together, and I'm going to be putting it through its paces, and that should be enough for it. I wasn't really. What's funny is I signed the deal, and I wasn't entirely excited about it. But when I got it in the mail last night and opened it up, I kind of got excited a little bit. Everything looks pretty nice so far. The diode module is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, but I know that there's different wattages of them as well.
Is this like a tabletop one?
Yeah, it's a diode one that goes on a tabletop. I'm not sure what I'm going to use for the base yet. In fact, I might even talk to US about some suggestions for it.
So is this, I don't mean to interrupt, is this one of these ones that you can like put on whatever? Like you could put it on the hood of your car, you can put it on like a piece of wood?
I guess technically you could.
Interesting. I've seen people attempt things with those.
I'm not sure how experimental I'll get with it, at least in the video, because I kind of want to meet the agreement first, and then I'll probably come up with creative things to do with it after. I was a little bit surprised by something though. So in one box, and the box isn't very big, came the main laser unit, which is basically just like the rails, the stepper motors, and the laser unit. It's 390 millimeters squared, which I think is like 15 by 15, if my conversion was correct. So it's a fairly nice square area. Mm-hmm. But it also came with a box of sample things to engrave and cut. And in the box was leather, wood, like you would imagine, denim. They had a couple squares of denim in there, which I thought was interesting. But also a couple sheets of plate steel, which I'm a little bit confused by, because I didn't think that stuff could etch steel.
Well, if you sprayed it with like water mixed with borat, wouldn't it etch anything?
I don't know. Just the fact that it was in the box in itself, I would assume that means that you could put it in there and have it do something to it without any additional preparation. I could be wrong. Just I was surprised that it was in the box.
Hmm.
And they are what 1/8 inch plate steel, which I mean it's a pretty sturdy, hefty piece of thing. I'm pretty sure it's steel. It doesn't seem like aluminum because I can't bend it, and aluminum is a little bit more pliable usually. But I'll hopefully have it together this weekend. Hopefully by mid next week I'll have run my tests, and then I'll have a couple of days to do the video. So that should be coming out pretty quick.
Well, it's got to come out pretty quick.
It has to come out pretty quick because then I have 3 weeks to build cabinets in my garage for my other agreement video for Evolution Tools.
So for the laser one, is it just simply like a review? Like, what were the parameters of the agreement that you made with them?
I can essentially, yeah, I keep it. I can essentially do anything I want with it in terms of the video, as long as I say some things about it and I have some links in the description, and it has to hit 1,000 views. But
okay,
I know.
I'll just hit loop. Leave it running on a computer.
I appreciate that. I'll be asking a lot of people to watch it a couple times, but I don't remember there being a time frame on the 1,000 views. I'm like, well, you didn't say what period of time, so a year. Although my laser videos tend to go up pretty quick.
Yeah.
The one interesting stipulation was that if it doesn't hit that 1,000 views, then I have to make a second video. Although it didn't.
That's not. Really
but once again, it didn't say in what period of time I have to make that second video. So I'm going to use those loopholes to my advantage, just to make sure I can get through this. And I don't know. It looks like I haven't used it yet, but the build quality looks pretty good. Although there's a different company's diode laser that I was supposed to get that never came through. That is the one I actually wanted. So I might still end up with more than one of these things. I might have to start doing like raffles and giveaways for all the extra lasers, because I'm going to probably have too many. And watch, within about 2 months, Maker's Portal is going to end up with one of my lasers. Let's see if he responds. He's in the chat right now.
What he could do is take those old-timey photos that he'd been taking and turn them into like black and white, and then just start metal etching them. Yeah,
that's definitely viable.
It's funny, back in the day, my parents did that. They would like metal etch photographs.
Like, is that tintype?
I think so. I'm not sure how they did it.
Or whatever it was, I think.
Yeah, but like take old-timey pictures and then like etch that old-timey picture on a metal to make it look like an old-timey metal picture. It's really cool. I mean, they last forever too. It's kind of nice. Cool. Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward to this one because the quality that you can get with the diode lasers is pretty good. And in some cases, I think it's better than the CO2 lasers. Yeah. So I'll be talking about that probably for the next week or two. And yeah. How about you, Donovan?
It's been good. I took a day off. I say a day off. I have kids. There's never really a day off. But I kind of took a day off from like working and whatnot to recoup after getting back home. And to send out like thank you emails to all the contacts and businesses that Wes and I worked with, and coming up with our ARG and the ones that I talked to while I was there at the event. And now that I'm back from this event, a lot of it is coming down off the high of Workbench Con. And it's funny because at Workbench Con, you're there and you're surrounded by people, and it's just this injection of like energy and creativity and just awesomeness. And then you have to like come back to the real world and you're like, I'm going to do everything. And then you come back, you're like, oh, I have responsibilities. So managing all that, all the expectations that I made, like I had in my mind internally coming off of that event with, having kids, having a house, having a wife, and a life and all that kind of stuff.
My excitement was way up here.
Yeah.
And then work beat it down here. Not even family, work just destroyed it this week. I get it.
Yeah. But I'm excited. I learned a lot and realized a lot and got to talk a lot. I've got my voice back, so that's good. It started going out the first day we were there, and it was like, oh no. But I'm glad it went. It was fantastic. Is that a good segue? Just jump right into it?
I think so. I think that's probably a big part.
So for anybody listening, that doesn't already know, because we have been talking about it for a while, there was a big convention in Atlanta last weekend that we were all together in person and had a microphone set up in person and never hit record to do an in-person podcast.
The thought, it's the thought that counts.
Yeah.
From what I hear, I don't know.
We were prepared.
We were.
You know, we don't really have any parameters for this conversation because I'm trying to sit here thinking about what do we talk about, what do we not talk about.
In all honesty, the evening that we were all sitting down in the lobby on the sofas, if we had just put up a microphone in the middle of it and then like snippeted together like highlights of the evening, that would have been perfect. But yeah, it's all right. We'll do it again next time. We promise.
So
made some new friends.
Yeah.
Played some new games.
Yep.
Learned some stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun activities that we took part in, like different meals and stuff we shared together, and it was kind of cool to have like a vacation, you know, from the last 2 years in a way. Like that's the last conference that I went to before this was Workbench Con right before the pandemic. Like, and the same for a lot of other folks, and so it was kind of poetic to go back to this. Not that we're done with the pandemic by any stretch, but a lot of things are attempting to get back to normal, coincidentally right now. So we'll see if that hopefully works that way. But it was great to see you guys and a lot of other people. There were some people that listened to the podcast and that are in the live chat right now that I actually never met in person, including Grant from Dad Crafting. We actually got to meet him. That was pretty cool. And it was great to have Makers Portal out there, even though I hadn't met him before and don't get to interact with him in person very often. So that was really awesome to have him fly out and see us and hang out.
He got really popular with that Polaroid camera he was toting around to take pictures of everybody.
He did.
You know, it was my first time to Workbench Con that both of you have been before. Have you guys been once or twice before?
3 times.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I guess I could kind of start things off a little bit like this. You know, I've been to Maker Faire, several years, and we were, lucky enough to be able to do a couple of live talks with them. And Maker Faire is a really, really cool experience, but it's open to the public, and the environment is cool, but it also seems a little bit different. Workbench Con, by comparison, I actually think I liked a lot better because it seemed like such an inclusive group of, you knew why everybody was there. It wasn't just a family out for an outing. And one of the experiences that I liked the best was, getting up and going down for breakfast or whatever meal it was and going and sitting down at a table where I didn't know anybody. And that usually happened because all of you had all the seats taken and I was like the last one to get my food and I had to find somewhere else to sit most times, which is fine. But what I really like is that I could, and this happened several times, I sit down at a table where I didn't know anybody and automatically everybody introduces each other. Oh, what do you make? What do you do? And it was the norm that was established without even having to say anything. And it felt completely natural. And I love that. I mean, I go to work meetings like this all the time and I sit down somewhere and nobody will talk to anybody. Partially because we don't really want to be there. But, Workbench Con, you want to be there. Well, you better want to be there for the cost of the ticket. But I loved that environment. And right away I had 5 or 6 new contacts. And meeting people and talking and seeing the variety of interests that were there, and it was great. It was a great experience from that standpoint. And we always joke that a lot of these are more about networking and just meeting people than any of the events that the actual venue creates, because that's like a whole other conversation, probably for a little bit later. But
yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's
not right now.
No, a little bit later. We'll get to it. There's some stuff to actually talk about. It's not all roses, but it was a lot of fun. I just wish it. Well, I'm not gonna say I wish anything. The experience is worth it no matter what. I do not regret going. I loved it.
Yeah, it's interesting now that I think about it. Like, the people that attend this thing really, like, if they had a slightly different mindset, it would be a completely different experience. Because realistically, in a way, the attendees are almost like in competition with one another for eyeballs, for sponsors, for so many different things. But nobody really, for the most part that I encountered, no one really treats it like that. They just as well could have, but the desire to like collaborate, just even over a meal, or just like talk with, have like a common ground, overrides that tendency to maybe make a competition out of it, which is interesting.
Something that I don't remember if I even mentioned it on the show or if I even told you guys, but we were talking about before Workbench Con about sponsors that were going to be there or possible approaches or how to handle all that. I had a video plan that I was going to, this is my plan. I was going to have a name tag, which some of you already saw, or some of you saw when I was there. But it was going to have a QR code that would take people to a specific video only for Workbench Con that did an intro to my channel, talked about my demographics, the things that I make and stuff like that. I had the script entirely wrote out. I had the, everything set for it. But when it came down to it, I had 20 minutes to do it before my plane left. That's it. And that was not enough time to accomplish all that stuff. And that's how busy that week was before I left. And so I basically dropped it, left it on the cutting room floor, and didn't do any of that. And then when I got to Workbench Con, I looked around. I didn't feel that inspired to make that pitch to any sponsors. I just didn't. And once I kind of admitted to myself that I wasn't going to do it and didn't let that pressure affect me, I started enjoying myself. So.
Yeah, because I mean, both of you guys have said it. Like, the value of the event is the people. That's what it is. That's why we go. It's the people. The added value is all of the other stuff that may or may not be there. But the whole value of the event is the people. And it's kind of funny. Like, every time that I've gone, I never go expecting to make friends. I'm not the best in social situations, and my brain goes at 1,000 times a minute, and sometimes I talk faster than I should, and like I don't realize what I'm saying, and so I have to make like a conceited, focused effort when I'm talking to people, not to, I don't know, act crazy. I can be overwhelming, and I understand that. Like, I get that. I know that's me and that's my personality, but and especially being at events like this, it's hard not to just act like a giddy kid. But I never go like expecting to make friends, but then I make friends, and it always blows me away that like there's these amazing people in the community that are now part of our like social circle that I'm like, wow, how did that happen?
Didn't we kind of make this joke like years ago when a lot of this started? Like, I'm 35 or 40 years old and I'm making adult friends. It was a weird experience for a lot of us at the beginning. And I forget who it said before, or who said it before. Oh, honey, I'm going to Boston. I'm going to be sharing a room with a bunch of these guys I've never met.
That was before my time, but I get the reference.
Yeah. I think it's still true today for a lot of people. So.
Sorry, there's not really many opportunities for adults to kind of make new friends besides, pre-established circles like church or a bar or like a mandatory
soccer moms,
mandatory fun thing for your kids. Exactly. There's not really that many opportunities, especially like interest based, outside of those other things I just mentioned. But yeah, it's really cool. Speaking of something really cool, do you want to explain, Donovan, what you and I worked on for a month plus, or like a couple? We started a couple months ago, but really the rubber hit the road like within the last 3 weeks or so. So if you want to dive into that, I think it's pretty cool because it relates to the podcast. We had some stuff to do.
It does. Did we not talk about it? We've talked about it. We didn't explain it really, did we?
Didn't really explain it that well because we were trying to be coy with the details so as to not ruin things. So
yeah, that's true. Did you ever try and add up how many hours you think you've
No,
No.
it was an entire weekend's worth of work. Like I didn't do anything else. That's not true. I watched some
You
Peacemaker
did.
episodes. I watched a couple Peacemaker episodes, but besides that, I didn't even take time to like go get lunch anywhere. I didn't eat anywhere else. I got food and brought it back, like for an entire full day Friday, full day Saturday, and most of the day on Sunday. Was it even a little bit on Thursday? I can't remember. Maybe the tail end of Thursday.
Well, yeah, because after the podcast, you
That's
and I
right.
talked until forever.
That's right.
So what Wes and I have been alluding to in the podcast before, and what we did is that we came up with a treasure hunt for, not a scavenger hunt, a treasure hunt for Workbench Con. And what it was is that we took 9 people from the maker community, mostly our friends, because that's who we know and who we felt would be less offended by the artist depictions we made of them. And we turned them into fantasy characters on cards that we then handed out to people at the event to solve puzzles on the back of each of these cards, go around to the different booths, learn something about the companies at those booths that would then turn into a code word that they give to get the next card, solve the next puzzle, so on and so forth. And then once you had all 9 cards collected, you had to arrange them in a certain way. You had to use augmented reality to find a combination to a directional combination lock that we had on a huge chest that sat on the presentation stage that was full of prizes and all kinds of stuff from each of the companies that were there, as well as a prize from the Making Geeks podcast, which was kind of the...
Which was debatably the coolest prize.
Well, yeah.
We donated a Oculus Quest 2 headset. I mean that brought the people to look in the box. I mean, let's just be honest.
Show us the cards. Ah, do you have all of mine are upstairs? Oh no! I should have been prepared enough to bring cards down to show everybody the cards. What I will do, I will post all of the cards on my Instagram. So if you don't follow me already, follow me at Once Upon a Workbench, and I will show you guys the series of cards that we made for each of the people. It was so cool. Taking people that we know in the community and our friends, and then turning them into fantasy characters. It was so much fun, to the point that people who have seen that and have seen the work that we've done are like, "Hey, can you make one for me?"
They almost look like magic cards.
They did.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, which was the intent and purpose of what we wanted to do.
Can I interrupt you guys for a quick second, though?
Mm-hmm.
I want to give the both of you credit that I don't think you rightfully got for the work that you put in and what you put together. I know that the people that participated really loved it, and I know that there's appreciation maybe from a lot of the other makers. But from the venue itself, I think that they dropped the ball in really kind of appreciating what went into it and having some sort of unifying activity to bring everything together. Because they didn't do squat, for lack of other words I'd rather use, and actually pulling that together. The two of you doing that was a better, well, I already said it, like unifying activity, because the person that should have been emceeing the entire thing did a horrible job.
And honestly, like, if I was more brave, what's the word? Bold. If I was more bold, we should have gone up there and introduced the game rather than letting her ruin it for us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We had this whole sequence and speech and like little charade, this little presentation to like really get people engaged and interested.
Dramatic entrance to the chest.
We had a whole thing planned out, and then
a quippy ending.
Oh my gosh! And she's just like, "Oh hey, so if you happen to be interested in treasure hunts, go find these two people."
No. She didn't say treasure hunt. She said scavenger hunt.
Go find these two people that you've never met before, probably. Go find them. I'm not going to tell you what they look like or where they are. Just go find Wes and Donovan. And you might get a cool prize. That's what she said. You might get a cool prize. And like, and we were like standing off stage, like with this whole like giant chest. We were ready to like slam down and like show and like rattle off like all the prizes to get people interested in it. And then, but no, I mean, it went how it went for a reason, I guess. But and we ended up having pretty good participation, but it could have been a lot better, I think, from just to the get go, like out of the gate. And that was just like a small little sampling of the issues we had with some of the people running the thing. But it was great. It was great no matter like in spite of the people running it was great. So just imagine how good it could have been if they actually supported it like wholeheartly.
If there is a Workbench Con next year, which I don't know why there wouldn't be, but just because for some of the people that we know that are, I don't know if there's an advisory board for it, like there's for Maker Faire, but maybe we can make a suggestion about maybe somebody that is well respected in the group to be a kind of an appointed MC of sorts.
We know somebody.
Yeah, well, I think we know a couple people. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is, I don't think it should be trusted in the hands of the person that was supposed to be doing it, because that wasn't the only failure in that thing. So
yeah, if you have a keynote and they're like saying their keynote address, they're like one of the premier like people that you have there, like pulling people in, getting them interested, like setting the precedent for the day, right? And then after the keynote, usually there's a person like the MC, whoever's hosting it, like, thanks, Bob, or thanks, person. All right, you guys have a great one. And he's just like left up there, like hanging in the wind, like, all right, I guess I'm going to keep talking because no one's like playing me off stage. And it was so believably, unfortunately, it was believably awkward. It was like a bad episode of The Office where Michael Scott is just like,
well, are we going to talk about it now?
I mean, we might as well. We're sort of beating around the bush.
No, because you can say this is an imaginative thing. It's what had happened. Bob was on stage giving the keynote address, and he finished, and there was no staff.
Crickets.
Nothing. It was so awkward. Oh, it was so awkward.
Like, he has to put the mic somewhere. There was no mic stand. Like, what does he just like lay it on the stage and walk away? Like,
just drop the mic.
And oh my gosh.
Anybody want to ask any questions about my dog?
Yeah, he's like, I guess I'll keep talking.
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah. And Nicole's like, what about your cats?
Oh yeah,
it's so funny. Like Ben Ueda was the keynote speaker for the first day that we were there
on Friday. Yeah.
And it was so funny. He was talking. He gave a really good talk. He talked about scaling up in terms of what we do and being makers and stuff like that. Not trying to do everything all at once, but scaling up what you are doing. And some of the points in the beginning that he was making were really good and really impactful for the people that were there. Then he went off on this tangent about buying company after company after company, and like just his relatability just fell through the floor. But that said, in the middle of his talk, he's like, yeah, we're building this hotel, and like we bought our own sofa company to make our own sofas and all this kind of stuff, and maybe we can have Workbench Con there one year and it'll actually be fun. And I just
we just kind of looked at each other like, did he just say that?
Did he just say that? And like didn't even phase like the staff or anybody else. That I don't know if
they weren't even paying attention. No,
they weren't even paying attention.
There was like this like sort of weird laughter that everybody was like laughing, but it's like the person laughing in class because they're afraid they're like about to get in trouble by the teacher scolding them for laughing, but they wanted to laugh. Like it was like this nervousness that was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the closing ceremony, we might have kind of discovered why there's this disconnect. And maybe we'll still say that for a little bit later too, but it seems like there's a whole ulterior motive going on with Workbench Con, which is a little bit off-putting. But at least I didn't know about that until the last day.
Oh gosh, I totally forgot about that.
I can't forget about it.
All right, so if we're going to talk about it, I want to ask you guys this question, especially Sean, since this is your first time.
Okay.
Is it worth it?
Is it worth the money? Because that's the main factor for a lot of people not going to this is because of the money. It's super expensive.
Yeah, it is. Like tickets, if you don't know or if you haven't been, tickets are $600 to get into the event, plus the hotel, which is like $800, plus the plane ride.
You're looking at $1,000 just to basically participate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at least.
Plus food, plus.
So I'll answer this two different ways. For me individually, with where I am in the community and my personal, I guess, scale of business, right at this point right now, yeah, it's worth it for me. But a lot of it is because of what I've already had invested in the last 5 years, and that I know a good number of people there. And to be there with you guys, and Nicole and Turi and Grant from Dad Crafted, and my brother being there was kind of like a bonus because that wasn't part of the original plan. It was worth it for me. I got a lot out of it, even though there was no sponsorship deals done. That's, just kind of the situation I'm in. But for somebody that is just getting started, I don't think I could recommend it for them. I don't. And Donovan, you said something before, or maybe it was US that talked about the being in competition with each other because of the sponsors. It's something that I didn't think about a lot, but I think that it was subconsciously there. How many people do you think were at Workbench Con? What was the attendance? Do you guys know? I'm curious because this kind of matters. How many?
500.
Was it that many?
That's the number I heard from Steph.
Wow, that seemed kind of high.
Maybe in between 400 and 500.
Well, okay. So either way, you say 500 people.
Mm-hmm.
You say even if half of those people, so like say 250 people, are looking to get sponsored or find some sort of sponsorship, that's 250 hitting the same 15 sponsors that were there, because there were not that many. At least in my mind, it wasn't that many. The competition and the odds of getting something worthwhile, other than just maybe a free product, like, yeah, I got free headphones from Isotunes, getting free $50 headphones for doing a couple of videos, I don't think is worth it. It's a tough sell. If you're selling from the standpoint of, are there supposed to be a meetup and meeting with sponsors potentially for your channel, I don't think there's enough meat on the bone for everybody. I really don't. So what you end up with is a really expensive hangout. So it's, luckily enough, I wasn't going mainly for that reason. Otherwise, I would have been pretty put off.
Yeah, and really, there's like 3 different avenues or like tracks that an attendee can sort of like go down. Like when you go there, you can either choose, I'm going to be super social and interact with other people that are on my like more or less level, like not like fans, but people that are also content creators. And that's a cool conversation that you can have with somebody that you can't just like walk down the street or even go to your, if you go to church, how many content creators are going to be there? Like any circle of friends that are not already in this thing. Like you're a lot more likely to find somebody that watches a football game, or not including myself, but like, like it's not a common experience that you can like strike up a conversation with somebody and like have something to share of that specific like shared occurrence or shared interest. So that's something you can't usually get. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is sponsors, like you said. That's another track. You can kind of go down and have all your energy devoted to just talking to sponsors and not worrying about other people, right? Or the other one is you can go there for the classes. There may or may not be something for everybody there for whatever reason. But those are like 3 different sort of tracks that I sort of visualize as things you can get from it, and they can be any combination or isolated of those 3.
Actually, I think there's one more, although I don't think this one is one that would really want to anybody would want to advertise this. But you're also paying for access to people in a way, in a venue that you'd be able to talk to people that you normally wouldn't be able to talk to maybe one-on-one. whether it's Bob or Dresta or Benueta.
Sure.
And there's a lot of
yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot more chance encounters. I mean, for instance, the morning that I left, I was waiting out in front of the hotel for my Uber, and who comes out? Derek from Malden and Jimmy Dresta. So I got to have a 15-minute one-on-one conversation with Dresta, which isn't probably that common in a lot of circumstances. And, it's always a little bit of an ego stroke, too, that he remembers who I am because I met him years ago, and I've seen him, various times through the years. But I had a good conversation with him about things and his Netflix show coming out and stuff. And then I get on the train at the airport to get taken to my terminal. I walk in the train and I turn, and who's right there? Benueta. So I got to have a one-on-one conversation with him for the duration of the train ride, which is only about 5 or 8 minutes, but still. And same thing with him. He remembers who I am because I've seen him on different occasions, and got to have a good conversation with him. So it's an access that expensive access, but you don't get to have it. You wouldn't get that at Maker Faire probably, because the sheer number of people and everybody kind of mobbing in a different way. So that also helps.
Wes, what do you think?
If I thought it was worth it,
Mm-hmm.
that's tough. The more I want to say, maybe the more that I go, I feel like the less that I get out of it.
It diminishes.
Diminishing returns. And it's
Yep.
not from a person-to-person relationship. Like, I still get way more out of the networking than anything else. But as far as, like, what Workbench Con offers beyond just the opportunity to talk to another person. Because we have the opportunity already with at least us three to have, like, an outlet to talk about making things. And then there's all these other Discord things. Like, that's never going to change. Like,
yeah, we can't always do it over a game of heave ho, though. So
that's very true.
That changes things.
Like, I'm definitely getting more and more, like, frustrated and disenchanted with the people running that stuff. Like, the last year that I attended 2 years ago, you're sort of blinded by, like, all the things that are going on. You can't really see what's happening behind the curtains. So, or you don't want to see, or besides, like, the crappy audio and audio-visual setup they had last year was absolutely abysmal. Like, you'd have to be blind to not notice that, or not care, like, to have it bother you, or have it not bother you. But this year, I don't know, I didn't feel like I wanted to put up with it, like, for the amount of money that we're all paying. It was sort of kind of ridiculous for some of the stuff the way things were managed and handled. So that was that. It was irritating me a lot more this time around than before. And that can segue into the closing ceremonies a little bit. So they had the closing ceremonies, which in most of these events, it's a thing where you're kind of like thanking everybody for being there. That sort of, like, kind of like a wrap up of the occurrence of the event. And it's sort of like a nice, like, send off till next year. I think one of the other years they had maybe Jimmy Dresta do one or something. It's usually like a speech thing, like a motivational thing. Get out there, go get him, Tiger. Da da da. And so we're like, okay, that's what it's going to be. Sweet. So we all kind of we were told where it's going to be, and it wasn't in the normal area that we had been congregating the entirety of this event. That was all like a ghost town. So all the vendors had already most of them had already packed up their crap and, like, skipped town kind of feel.
Which almost seemed disrespectful in a lot of ways, too.
It was super weird. That's what everybody thought at least I thought the last thing was going to be, because that's where all of our congregational activities occurred. But it was, like, in this side, like, presentation room, like a meeting room that happened to have, like, a big screen and, like, a stage or something. So like, okay. So as we're, like, kind of queuing up to go in there, they're like, oh, listen, you can drop in a business card or a sticker for a door prize. And I'm already out of stickers. This is at the end of the event. My objective is to give out all my stickers. If I've given out all my stickers, I consider that a win. All right, so at this point, I've given out every friggin' sticker I brought, which, granted, wasn't a ton, but I didn't.
Not as many as previous years, but still a lot.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, I met the obligation, cool. And so we're at the last thing, like, oh, drop another sticker. I don't have another sticker. Donovan's with me. He's like, oh, crap. I got to go get another sticker. He, like, takes off. We're standing beside each other. He takes off and goes up to his room to drop a sticker in there. And I'm just like, what is this for? And like, oh, it's for a door prize. I'm like, whatever. And I just, like, walked in. Like, just that sort of, like, I got, like, an icky feeling already from that. And so you go in there. We sit down. You know, and there's, like, some of our other crew that are already in there waiting for us. Like, I sit beside Grant from Dad Crafting and like a couple other people in front of us, and there's like a screen up. What was the name of it?
Pimp My
Deer Park.
Pimp My Deer Park. Deer Park. Deer Park?
Deer House?
Deer Home?
Camp.
Deer Camp.
Deer Camp.
It wasn't Deer Park because that's a brand. Okay. Yeah,
Deer Camp.
And it was a silhouette. It was like a little graphic, like a clip art of a silhouette of a deer where the antlers were replaced by 2 wrenches. And I'm like looking at that, and before we're sitting down, there's a koozie that's in every seat. And it's like this camouflage, super redneck koozie for like a beer or something, right? Or like
a bottle opener.
With a bottle opener attached. So I'm like, okay. Like, I'm already out of my demographic. As I'm looking at, I'm like picking up this thing, like this thing's in my way. It's preventing me from sitting down. What is this crap? I look at it. I'm like, I don't want this. I just like throw it in the chair beside me. I'm like, I don't want this. Like, I'm already like irritated by the door prize thing. And then this, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I look at the screen and it's like this deer thing. What the hell is this? And there's like the antlers are wrenches. I'm like, that's a clever design. It looks kind of cool. But then I'm like looking at the description and like Grant's holding the little pamphlet to describe like what the event is, and I'm reading it, and I start like, it's like that moment in the sitcoms where like you realize that everybody around you is like an alien except you, or like it's something like that. It kind of like that little weird focus zoom thing that happens in the movies where it's like the person realizes that, you know, that it came from inside the building all along or whatever. That's what it felt like to be out. It's like this moment of like realization of what was about to happen. And the description was for like this like reality show with all these people I don't care about, and like the way they described it was like super. I read just enough of it to like kind of turn my stomach upside down, and I just thought like and it was like slotted for like an hour or something. We get to like preview an episode of this new show that's coming out. Yeah, like I realized like I'm in a cult, like Jordan just said in the live chat, and I'm just like, I spent like $1,000 plus to get here. I don't want to spend time watching a pilot of a show. I wouldn't like tune into this as, you know, at home. Like, why would I do that here? And like, I'd rather just go talk to some other sponsors, or actually they're not there anymore. I can't do that. It's like, I was trying to think like, what else am I going to do? I'm like, well, I can go up to my room and, maybe I'll find another person that doesn't want to watch this thing. And so I just like stood up and I walked out, and other people were still filing in like through the entrance. I just left. And I don't know what happened in that room after that point, because I wasn't there anymore. I went up to my room.
I can tell you.
I went up to my room and I sat down, and I think I got a message from Sean saying, "Where'd you go?" And I'm like, "I just left. I'm in my room if you want to join me." And that's when you can take over the story.
So I was trying to figure out if something, you know, happened, or, you know, something kind of peeved Wes off, and then Grant from Dan Crafted showed me the message. And I stood up and had some choice words, probably a little bit too loud that I should have, and basically walked out. And then I was kind of just sitting outside, and sitting outside the door of the closing ceremonies actually was really informative. When you looked at who walked out and who was not going in, was really telling, because Dressa did not go in. I forget his name. Is his name Michael or Bob, or not Bob, from Bourbon
Moth
Woodworking. He walked out. He might have got kicked out. I don't know. But he walked out. But most of the I hate using the term, but like bigger name, makers weren't going in to watch. And I think that was really telling. So either they knew ahead of time, or they just didn't care anyways. So I was doing just some, you know, people watching, and then Wes contacted me again and come up to the room, and we were playing a Switch game after that.
Yeah, because how this event started, because I was unfortunate enough to stay at least until they handed out food, so I could grab food because I was so hungry. I'm like, I just want the
Oh
food,
yeah, that's
man.
right. That's right. They baited people with food too. I forgot they did that. Yeah.
I know.
It
Yeah.
wasn't
But
even like real food. It was like little snacks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
so
At dinner time.
well, and yeah, it was convention food, quote unquote. But they had this panel up on stage that was made up of the showrunners and the producer
Yeah.
and sponsor for this network reality Pimp My Dear Dear Camp, whatever show, which uh, it just got awkward. It was so awkward listening to all of these people talk because the stuff that they were saying was so offensive to everybody that was in there. There was one guy that stood up on the stage and was like, "You're only worth what content you have." And I was like, "Do you know the room? Like, do you know why are you saying stuff like that?" He wasn't part of our community. Like he was a business that was here doing business for this business and TV show. Like he didn't understand who we were. And then he's up there making comments like that. And I was like, I can't take this guy seriously, or I can't take any of it seriously. I could hardly take it seriously in the beginning when I was like, what the heck is Pimp My Dear Camp? But the more each one of them talked, the more disjointed that whole closing ceremony, it just all fell apart. And I'm like, what is happening? And it's so funny. All of us were on the same row and we're all freaking texting each other. It's like, what is going on? While we're supposed to be listening to this thing. And I don't know what happened after that. I can only guess. Well, they showed the pilot episode for the TV series, right? Something like that. I don't know. We grabbed food and we took off.
I think the real kicker is that the door prize was just a set of Isotunes headphones. That's it.
Well, the door
That's all
prize
it
was the swag left over from each of the booths.
Yeah.
I was like,
And the extra funny
That's
part
the
is
door
that
prize.
Nicole and Turi from When Geeks Craft, they actually ended up winning one, and they were
They
there to
did,
claim the
and
prize.
they weren't even there.
And so Grant apparently is the only member of the crew left that didn't like skedaddle after they got the food, and so he's like, I guess I'll claim the prize for them. He like walks up on stage from
And
as
gets
he tells
booed.
it. Yeah, he's like he accepts it on behalf of When Geeks Craft, and he gets booed for some reason. I don't understand that, but okay. Yeah, I don't know why would he be
Gosh.
booed. I don't understand that.
I don't know.
But
Maybe
yeah.
they weren't booing him. Maybe they were booing that after all that, the grand prize was just a set of headphones.
Maybe they were booing the prize and not the person. Maybe so. Maybe.
I mean, if the door prize was the Phantom CNC machine, I mean, then, sure, I'll listen to your crappy commercial and, maybe get a $10,000 machine or whatever. Yeah. There's one additional thing that is frustrating about these events, but it's more like a real personal type thing for me. Is it, you get into an event like this and you kind of want to hope that everything's somewhat equal. We're all equal here. We're all makers. We're all trying to do something like this. But then you realize that there's a whole nother tier, almost like this secret type of, gathering, that, I don't have a seat at the table at. That's why, and you guys were invited to a party that I wasn't invited to. You have all these other meetings going on and it's not all equal.
Yeah, I was invited. I was invited to a party that it said on the slip. It was like, "This is a secret party," and Donovan handed it to me. It said, "This is a secret party. Don't tell people. We're gonna meet at this place. You have to have this ticket to go there." And I'm like, he hands it to me. I'm like, "Who's gonna be here?" And then you're like, "Well, Stephanie, our friend Stephanie from Uncommon Outpost, is gonna be there, and she doesn't know anybody else, so we should go." I'm like, I guess maybe. And I don't know. That already kind of. I don't like that. I don't like that feeling, and so I was already kind of on the no side, but maybe on the maybe side, but more likely on the no. And basically,
Indifferent.
Yeah,
Indifferent.
yeah. And so as the night went on, like the opportunity came and went for that. Like when the time of that was starting, I was already with Sean. And we had all gone to dinner. We had gotten the hamburger over at Donnie Wahlberg's
Wahlburgers.
burger place. I like my description better. Um, and so, like, I was already with the people I wanted to be with. And by the time that started, I was tracking the time it started or whatnot, and I was in some of the same messaging as some of the people that ended up going. But yeah, I didn't care about that anymore. I didn't really have an interest. I was with the people that I wanted to be with, and by me not going, like it sort of cemented my decision for me. And then I think Donovan started with our group, and I think he ended up being sort of coerced in a way to go over to that party by Steph, and he ends up going over there.
Well, it was I wasn't coerced.
Well,
coerced.
I'm saying
necessarily. It's like
yeah.
I work for a couple people. I work for John Malecki and I work for Jess Crow. Jess Crow was at the event and wanted to talk to me, and so I went to go talk to Jess and to like kind of nudge Steph in the ribs and say, hey, there's a reinforcement here. Hi, bye. So I guess if that's coerced. I guess I was coerced, but it was more for talking to my boss than going and participating in this event.
But you ended up going. You said it was not even like as expected. It wasn't even a conducive location to have a discussion about anything vital because of the venue and the noise level and the rowdiness, as a secret party as you would expect. And then you end up coming back anyways.
Well, also, like, I'm not the personality to find those things appealing. Like, I don't drink. Same. I am not great at socializing.
Same.
And so it's like to have a party where the point is to drink and to socialize. Like, I am not comfortable. I'm not comfortable. And so, like, I will make an appearance if my presence is necessary. Otherwise, I came right back and sat in the lobby.
Yep.
And talked on a comfy couch and talked until 2:00 in the morning and was able to hear everything that people were saying without them having to yell at me because the music was loud or whatnot. Yeah. There is you're right. I think there is a different level of experience for events like this, depending on where you fall in that ladder. And honestly, I think if it hadn't been for the fact that Wes and I had put together this ARG and had worked with these companies that were part of this private event, we wouldn't have been invited either. It just so happened that we were, and so we did. So yeah. Are you gonna go next year if they haven't?
I don't know if I don't know. It's hard to say because there's so few maker-related events now, with maker fairs, not occurring regularly, if at all. It's hard to say. I'm probably leaning to no. But if it's my only excuse to hang out with you guys, the only opportunity to hang out with a lot of people, then I could. That's the only draw. If for some reason we convinced, like a part of our objective of doing this ARG thing was to maybe get an interest to actually have that as a sanction. It was not a sanctioned event.
No.
By Workbench Con. It was sort of like a guerrilla style, hey, we're going to do this thing on top of Workbench Con. We hope people are going to participate, and they did. I think we could have had a lot more participation from several different, factors, being, actual, being able to present the idea and being advertised and actually having a budget to do some of the stuff we wanted to do. Those are all great factors. And if that's actually something that we are invited to do, sure, I'd be more inclined to say yes. But it's getting harder and harder for me to sell it to myself, let alone my other half of the geeksmithing business, which is my wife, we're 50-50 actually into this. And so if I don't see much of a benefit for my channel in the next year, probably not. Unless we can have some other conference here in Raleigh where it's a lot cheaper for me, or
WestCon, I'm telling you, WestCon,
or any other event we can sub in there. I mean, I know it's harder for me to justify it.
What about you, Sean?
Mine's dependent on a couple factors. One is that I need to kind of take myself out of the running for some things at work, some responsibilities, so I can actually go when I want to go and come back when I want to come back, and not feel like there's this huge penalty at work or having to find people to cover for me at work, which is nearly impossible for the things that I do. That's kind of one of the things that makes it the hardest, because I hate having this whirlwind feeling where I enjoy it, but it's gone so fast and it takes me a day to adjust anyways. So it really only feels like I was there for a day in some ways, especially after being up for 30 hours straight and probably not even be able to spell my name, at a certain point, but just to be present. The other thing is that, my wife and I had talked about us going together next year, because Wes, just like you, she's 50% of the business. My wife is 50% of a business here.
Catherine Catherine said, sorry not to interject, but Catherine said that she is sad she missed it, because now she knows a lot more people than she knew in the previous events, and even also Maker Faire, she didn't really know a lot of people, so maybe that could be the angle.
Oh yeah, knowing if Catherine and John, your wife were there, I mean, that'd be huge. Not that it's a event specific for that, but it's an additional kind of like motivation too.
But it would have made our sleeping arrangements a little bit awkward. I didn't throw pillows at US. My wife probably would have.
I'm not going to comment on that, but but the thing is too that if she's going to fly to Atlanta, she wants to actually see Atlanta, which means taking even more time, which I'm not even sure I could do that with taking more time off of work. So there's all these stipulations, the unknowns right now. Do I want to go? Yeah, sure. Am I going to? I don't know.
Yeah.
All
the businesses that participated in the ARG this year want to do it again next year, bigger than what we did this year.
I say you bill them.
Right. Yeah,
I don't think you do it for free.
No. Yeah, which is great, because it's like, you've seen what we can do. Yeah. Now we can leverage that because we already have their interest. What's that line from the Western movie? It's like, you've piqued my curiosity, now you have my interest, that kind of thing.
You have my attention, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Now you have my attention, and we can leverage that to get paid for all this work that we're doing.
And make sure you don't just get paid in product.
Yes,
because that'll be the number one thing that they would say that they would do.
And that was the one thing about talking to vendors. It's like finding the ones that were only interested in giving away free product and not paying for branded content. Because there were 4 vendors there that I didn't even talk to. I'm like, I'm sure what you have to offer is fantastic. I don't want to waste my time if you are not interested in giving me money. Which is kind of bad to, I'm sure they're great, but when time is limited, when attention spans are limited and whatnot, like, I need to make sure that I'm using my time wisely. And so I think that will be the deciding factor for me, because like, I'm with Wes, like, every year it's harder and harder, especially this year, because I go to the event, I go to check-in during orientation the first night, and they're like, what's your name? My name is Donovan. Are you sure? Because you're not on the list. And she asked me if I knew how to spell my name, and I'm like, come on. It started off bad. And it's just, it's hard because what they're providing, like the things that Workbench Con are providing every year seem to be diminishing, while what they charge keeps going up. And so there's this conversation that we had at the end of like last Workbench Con and this Workbench Con. It's like where is all the money going? Because it's not going to this event. And it's just it's hard after an event like I said, if it's not for like the ARG and like having all of expenses taken care of and being paid to be there and to participate, and sorry, I didn't mean to hit the microphone, and to do what we did, like I am leaning more towards like Maker Camp than Workbench Con for future events.
I have to say that, so this, like I said before, and I've already mentioned this is my first time going to Workbench Con, and Workbench Con had been talked up so much over the last couple of years. And you two specifically, oh, you have to go. You're going next year. I'm like, okay, I'm going. So I don't know if I had an unrealistic expectation of what would be there, what this experience would be, but mainly from the convention, not the interaction and networking part.
We wanted you to go because we were going to be there.
Well, no, I understand that too.
Yeah.
But there were additional business related reasons why you were advising me to go too, just because the whole thing is pitched that this is where you meet with sponsors. This is where people walk away with deals. I'm like, okay, that's great. I get to the hotel. I walk up the stairs to where Workbench Con is, and I walk into the initial area, and my brother's with me, and I'm looking around going, this is it? I didn't know that there was more in the larger hall behind it.
Oh, okay.
But then I walked in the larger hall, and I'm still going, this is it? I was really expecting so much more. And maybe that was an unrealistic expectation on my part. I don't know.
So it's underwhelming. Yeah.
I don't want to say underwhelming, just not what I would have expected from something that seems like it's supposed to be a little bit more prestigious for this one exact purpose.
Mm-hmm.
COVID, pandemic, I'm sure it's a factor. Hold on a quick second. I'm sure it's a factor. But, you know, when I look at the main stage, I see the Workbench Con logo on the screen, and I see Home Depot. Knowing Home Depot is sponsoring, I did not feel that there was a presence of Home Depot at all. And I'm sure to be the headline sponsor would cost a fair amount of money. The numbers don't add up. The conceptual numbers don't add up for me. It seems really weird, but maybe I don't understand the ins and outs of how this production works. I'm not going to pretend to, just something doesn't seem right.
Yeah, you did bring up a good point in that in Workbench Cons in the past, Home Depot played like a major role in the events and activities. Like when Home Depot is there, there's like competitions, there's games, there's like interactive stuff. It is really cool. This year they were not there, and I didn't think about it until you just said it, Sean. And it's like I think that had a huge impact because they were not at their own event. And so all of that interactivity, all the games, all of the competition and stuff that they usually put on every year at Workbench Con was just wasn't there.
I think the trading card convention in the hall adjacent had a better system.
Those people are hardcore.
Yeah, they are hardcore.
Gosh. I saw 80-year-olds like dishing it out with 14-year-olds over shoes and like baseball cards. And I'm just like, what is happening?
Carrying lock boxes like they were walking out of Fort Knox.
I know.
It was fun.
Man, did you get the 87? Yeah, I got the 87. How much did you get the 87 for? Oh, I got it for $2,000. I was like, who are you? Like, how much disposable income do these people have? Oh my gosh. It was crazy. I'm glad it went. I had the funnest time hanging out with you guys. I always feel so much better just being around you and hanging out with you and recharging off of you guys. It was great.
There is something we have to mention though. I don't think I've ever laughed harder playing a group game with people than playing those Jackbox games or whatever they're called. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, I can't even describe it. without getting into trouble.
It's all in the lobby.
Yep.
It's all
in the lobby. Yep.
It's where it all happens.
If we gave particulars, we'd probably have to drop the families
That's
tentpole
true.
thing.
That's
Yep.
true.
Well, what are you guys geeking out about? Is there anything you're geeking out about since Workbench Con?
I am. I can go first. There was a very, very brief announcement of a game that was shown, I think, last week that I'm geeking about, and that's Street Fighter 6. I don't play the games a whole lot, but I'm still a fan of the IP and the property, and the little thing they showed was pretty cool, so I'm geeking out about that.
Let's see. The second season of Star Trek Picard aired today. It was all right. It's the first season. It was my most anticipated show that year, and it ended up being like one of my biggest disappointments. It was super weird, and I did not like it very much. The second season so far, first episode in, pretty solid. It's off to a better start. Had some cool cameos in it. I wish they didn't spoil that they were going to be cameos in like the promotional material for the show, which I'm not going to announce it, so because I don't want to spoil it for people that could be surprised. But if you're interested in Star Trek, check it out after you watch the first season. Looking forward to the next couple episodes of that. I'm not really watching a lot of TV right now, and so the TV I do watch needs to be really good, or else I get really pissed off. And Star Trek's one of my favorite series, IPs. So whenever I'm especially critical for a lot of that stuff, deservedly so. Because I think it could be a lot better than it has been. I look forward to Star Trek conversations with people that would engage me on them. And I'll leave it at that.
You said Star Wars, right?
I can talk smack about Star Wars all day long too. I can talk smack about either one equally. So I welcome it. And I also want to point out that Dad Crafted said he was going to converse with us about Boba Fett at the Workbench Con. He's like, "Oh, I will have some words with you, gentlemen, at Workbench Con regarding my favorite IP." And we're like, "Okay, let's bring it. Let's see." He didn't mention it not once. And also on the ride down, I rode down with When Geeks Craft. I was promised there would be Weird Al in the car ride. There was not a single Weird Al song that was played. Just want to point that out for anybody listening. I'm taking notes. I'm remembering this. That's cool. It's all right. It's cool.
I'm geeking out about the new friends we made at Workbench Con. It's so. One of the things that I've said in the past about Workbench Con is you go and you realize that how good of friends you are with people that you've never met before. And we made new friends this year, and it was fantastic. And I've been learning new skills and new sources of inspiration, and it's been great. I'm excited for what projects may come out of this in the future.
Very cool.
That would be you, Wes. I tried to segue for you. Apparently, I didn't set it up pretty good.
Well, we have a website where you can send us direct info about the show if you want to suggest a topic or something to discuss, or maybe you want to debate about something that we said on the show. You could do so at our website on the contact page. On the homepage of the site, you could listen to all of our past episodes, and then you will also have access to the shop, which has some Making Geeks themed merchandise, which I keep saying that we're going to have some more on there soon, which we will. Just soon is kind of like a sliding scale of time. Mm-hmm. And you can check all that out at makinggeeks.com.
You can also check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/makinggeeks to put your money where our mouths are. Every time we release an episode, people donate their money and support of the show, and we absolutely appreciate each and every one of you that do that. If it weren't for you, we definitely wouldn't be able to have cool offerings at different events, such as Workbench Con, and even attend them in some respects. And so we definitely thank you guys for your support, including our top patrons, Jordan, Square Splinter, and Clinton. You guys rock.
And all of us talk about the particular projects we're working on in any given moment on our social medias. So if you want to see what Wes is coming up with at any given moment, you can go see his stuff at Geeksmithing. If you want to see what Sean is working on, especially his laser stuff that he's going to be coming out with in the next 2 weeks, you can follow his journey of that over at Geek Builders. And if you want to see what craziness I've got coming up with now, you can follow me at Once Upon a Workbench.
You can find new episodes of the show every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. I want to say thank you to everybody hanging out in the live chat. It always makes for all the colorful conversation. It makes for a more enjoyable show, so it doesn't feel like we're just talking out into the ether. So for all of us, to all of you, have a great week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Wes, I kept thinking that you're going to mention something else. I think that's why I was hesitating a little bit.
Mention something else about what? What did
I
we
don't know.
miss?
It looked like he was getting ready to talk in there somewhere.